Let's get to the very latest out of Ukraine. A lot of eyes on the fact that that grain deal, which we covered, which, Ukraine, breadbasket of the region, potentially the world, their grain shipments being shut down was devastation for their economy, but also a real problem for food prices and for hunger, especially in developing nations. Well, that deal, which was already sort of crumbling, and a lot of the grain shipments reportedly not being allowed through, has now officially been killed by Russia. And this seems to be in retaliation for a drone attack on their Black Sea flagship that was damaged in Crimea. Let's go ahead and put this Wall Street Journal report up on the screen. So Russia blames Ukraine, UK for collapse of grain deal, of course. UK denies Moscow's claim that British experts aided that attack that I just referenced on Russian Black Sea fleet based at port of Sevastopol. They say Russia announced they would suspend participation in the grain export agreement Saturday. In response to that drone attack, Moscow said it damaged one minesweeper. Others say that it damaged much more than that, including the flagship of the Russian Black Sea Fleet, the Admiral Makarov, I'm going to go with. On Sunday, they had some very over-the-top rhetoric, as per usual. Russia's foreign ministry spokeswoman wrote on her Telegram messaging channel that the grain deal was thwarted by Zelensky and his terrorists, who are led by British specialists. They need more deaths. The Kyiv regime rests on this hellish throne: money, weapons, and death. The UK has denied any cooperation in the attack. I mean, I would not be shocked whatsoever if the UK was involved in the attack, so I have no idea either way. But it underscores both the fact that this war is really causing a lot of problems for the world. Obviously, the heaviest toll overwhelmingly on the people of Ukraine, but there have been tremendously devastating follow-on consequences for people everywhere. This is only going to exacerbate the rise in food prices. And also the fact that Russia really treats Crimea as kind of a different deal than the rest of Ukraine. This was territory that everyone had, in all but name, essentially ceded to Russia years ago. And there had been a lot of sensitivity about striking in Crimea early on. And now there's sort of like an increasing willingness to strike in Ukraine. In Crimea, and last week we played for you Nancy Pelosi saying that the U.S. is committed to helping Ukraine militarily take back this territory as well.
Right, and you have to consider also wheat futures actually went up by 8% just this morning based on the news of the pullout. Moscow is saying that shipments are going to become, quote, much riskier without it. And that's a complicated one because originally they had the port mined and all of that.
Right.
Now then they were guaranteeing safe passage. Now they're claiming the Ukrainians, which possibly did, used the grain deal to circumvent basically Russian export deals and all that and get that bomb over to the Russian side to bring it over to the bridge. That's ultimately what they were claiming.
Yeah.
As to
that
what
they used the grain deal
right.
to facilitate their attack on that Crimean bridge.
Right. Which is,
possible.
Again, if that's possible, a big problem on the Ukrainian front. It could even be, elements of the Ukrainian intelligence as part of the issue. Nobody really knows what exactly happened there. The point is that they have enough of a pretext to pull out. Turkey, the U.S., the UN, and Ukraine are, quote, moving ahead with it. But it does have a lot of uncertainty for merchant shipping and for wheat. And we should remember, we're not the ones who rely on this. It really is developing countries, Africa, India, elsewhere, that rely on so many of the grain shipments that were coming in. And with a subpar harvest, apparently, over the year on top of the turmoil, it actually just leads to an increase in price, which, what did we see with natural gas? Ultimately, the Europeans figured it out, which is they had to sacrifice like 10% of their national GDP. But that's what rich countries can do. They have a lot of reserve, and they're like, okay, we're going to take a haircut on the entire German economy, but we'll figure it out.
Right.
Bangladesh does not have that luxury, which is why they have rolling blackouts.
Right.
Thailand does not have that luxury. Pakistan, India, many of these other countries, Africa in particular, right now is really under notice, actually, in terms of their relationship with Russia, with China, and elsewhere. It's the rest of the globe that rely very much on these institutions. They don't have the ability to take a 10% haircut. And when they do, well, that's when you see like famine, starvation, total collapse, and that's
chaos.
Part of the issue, chaos. Really.
Right. Yeah, and you add to that another exacerbating factor, which is that with our Federal Reserve moves to increase interest rates, That's causing the dollar to strengthen, and also countries that have dollar-denominated debt, it's making it much more difficult for them. So that's an additional strain on their finances to be able to service that debt, which is many of these countries are in that situation, which is why a lot of people are sounding the alarm about potential, defaults and bankruptcies and all kinds of, currency collapse and all kinds of potential issues in the developing world. So they're really not in a healthy fiscal position to be able to weather this kind of storm, which is why this is ultimately so troubling. There are also reports coming out this morning, more missiles striking across Ukraine in the sort of continued attacks that we've seen from Russia on Ukrainian infrastructure, causing problems for their ability to provide electricity. We already have rolling blackouts across Ukraine as well. And so they're sort of continuing that direction of their attacks. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.